viewers of Mbomagapa TV and listeners of Ngobela. My name is Yongamela Manene. On behalf of Amaqhawe Ethu, I wish to welcome you into our series of lectures in this new year of 2022. Happy New Year and all the best to our viewers and supporters. Today, we are hosting Ubud Kaya Skweyiya, a former combatant of Umkhonto weSizwe, a writer, a Robben Islander, who has left the country at a very young age. He's going to be sharing with us today what led him to leave the country very young, at the age of 15 years, what has caused him to be politically active, and what he did learn in the process of being politically active. Butkaya would like to welcome you and thank you for your availability to come and share with us your experiences and your memos as an MK cadre as well as a Robben Islander. Please share with our people. Please share with the viewers. Please share with the listeners your experiences. Welcome.
Ndibulisa abahlali baseBhayi namsasazi. Ndiyayivuyela le opportunity endinika yona enqabe kakhulu. Ndithi ndizama uzintroducer forthwith. I'm Kaya Skweyiya, as you said. Ndazalwa apho eBhayi eThewu ngo-1962. My first school to start at was iChild's Duna phaa ngase-Centenary Hall. Abayazi the New Bright bazawuyazi lo Centenary Hall. And then I actually left the country at the beginning of 1978 for exile. But before that, let me explain why perhaps I left the country. 1976, if nizawukhumbula, kwakhona i-boxing fight apho eBhayi between uPhangaman Sekapane no Chris Kid Dlamini. It was around September, October 1976. And subsequent to that fight, it was on a Saturday. And then Monday, there was a raid in Ekhaya, where my brother was actually arrested. I was only 13 years old. The manner in which they actually raided my home might have had an impact on my political consciousness, because I was the youngest out of 8 people. So my parents bagwajiswa ukusebenzisa i-township lingo to the extent that that actually traumatized me. Ngoba you can imagine, you hold your parents in high esteem. Ningabantu abadala, utata uNkose, utata wami nomama uGaina. So that might have had an impact, because immediately thereafter, I became involved in some political activities around the area, but not as a political activist per se, because we belonged to what was then referred to as Action Committee. I even mastered the making of a petrol bomb during that time. But anyway, to cut the long story short, I then left the country with a group of comrades, 1978. Saqala eJoburg. Yayindim, uDenato sekhona, uKhaya, my namesake uRibas, Mbizo Ribas, uMlungwana. Umita wasweleka shem yena eTanzania apparently later, because he was supposed to live with us, but he was left behind. Ulita Mlahleki was supposed to be part and parcel of the group, but he did not go. But I later saw him at Robben Island, 1983, at Kwekwe 45 years. And then Kwekwe 17 years. In Robben Island from the age of 21 years, 1983, the age of 29, 1991. Anyway, Angola, we started our training that had to take about 6 months. It was referred to as commander's course, with some comrades basebhayini zawubazi abanye omunye former DG weNIA uGibson Njenje was part and parcel of that group. The late Lungile Magcwalisa, who ended up a brigadier general in the army. Abo Caesar, Abo Shoes, and quite a lot of them. And then that course started around April until October 1978 in the southern part of Angola, in the camp that used to be called Novakatenka. Not General Sizwe, when Angola po eBhayi, wayekhona pha noLidi yeJantshi. And what is very unfortunate is that most of those people I trained with were or are still senior officers in the army. I happened to be underranked, despite the fact that when I got integrated in 1994, I was endowed by the MKSQ with the rank of a lieutenant colonel, but was underranked by a certain comrade who hardly knew me because he left the country around 80s while I was already on Robben Island. You know, sometimes within us as comrades, you are our West own enemies. You understand those dynamics. So this comrade dealt with me terribly when it comes to my career in the army. Currently, when a comrade, I'm a warrant officer class 1, who's just about to retire around October because I'm 59 years old. But now there's a latest development in the army where a career intervention committee was established to look into cases like mine. Now, sorry, a decision by the career intervention committee was taken that I must be given a rank of a lieutenant colonel that dated from December 1st, 2016 as a compromise. I agreed. And then the letter was signed by 5 generals. My own general, General Pendani, General Sambo, General, even our own CDI, Chief of Defense Intelligence, that they recommend my rank. Now, Chief HR Vice Admiral Kubu decided that no, I must not get this rank, but I must get it on condition that I go for officer formative, which is very unfair. Even those generals were worried that how can I go for officer formative while I'm left with only 10 months before I retire? Because I'm old, I'm 59 years with comorbidities. All right, that is the situation. Let me go back to Angola. 1978, as I said, our training ended October. And then the following year, 1979, that specific camp, Novakatenka, was bombarded by the SADF Air Force around February 1979. And I must point out that that was the biggest MKANC training camp the movement has ever had in its history of armed struggle. And it constituted a nucleus for armed struggle because it had cream de la cream of the MK then. Unfortunately, it was bombarded February 1979. Another aspect, we were very lucky because no heavy casualties were inflicted because that raid was predicted by the intelligence component of the movement in collaboration with the intelligence component of Cubans, because Cubans were part and parcel of us. They used to train us, but though they did not actually constitute part and parcel of our strength, perhaps for strategic reasons, because 1977, There was a poisoning of the whole camp. The whole camp nearly died, but because Cubans were independent, with their independent admin, logistics, they actually rescued the comrades from being mowed down by the security force of South Africa. Now, 1979, February, we were bombarded. After then, we shifted from the south to the north of Angola to open the camp that used to be called Pango. It was what I refer to as a massive logistical movement of the ANC from south to north with ammunition, with trucks, hundreds of us in the ship en route to the north of Angola by sea. When we arrived there at Pango, we started building it from scratch because kwagcwele ibhosisi sayilihlathi sayiqala phansi le Pango 1979 sayilungisa yakhona ukuhlaleka, and that camp constituted a training camp for other detachments, because you'll remember that MK had detachments. The first one was the Lutuli detachment of 1960s. The second one was the one of June 16, 76. The third one is ours, that was referred to as Moncada detachment. And then I was one of the youngest of that group because I was 15 years of age when I started that training, 1978. To be precise, I was 15 years, 5 months. And then I began to be 16 when we finished the course on October. Coincidentally, it was my birth month. So I was a fully fledged General from Kondo at the age of 16, 1978. And from the look of things, these comrades that are actually retiring, they were older than me. Others were 17, 18, 19, 20. That's why I'm the only one who's left behind, in a way, left with 10 months. But comrade, let me put it very clear that I am very, very bitter because I am still struggling to make ends meet as we speak. At this age, I hardly have a car that can be able to take my kids around, despite the fact that I have a license. I'm still marginalized even now that I'm just about to retire. I would wish whoever can have the capacity to tell Chief HR to give me what I deserve so that I can relax peacefully with my children. You see, comrades, please, 5 generals sign. He's the one who's saying he cannot sign. Why? Now, with regard to Angola, while I was in Pango, let's talk about Pango, 1979, I was taken by China at the age of 17. 1979, I'm 17. I went to a camp called Casito and was part and parcel of the special operation machinery under the auspices of Joe Slovo. I worked with the likes of the Bani Mulekwanas of these days, our gallant fighter who's known, but yet he has a statue around here, but yet he contributed immensely in this struggle. Fortunately, there is another one, Amaqhawe, he was part and parcel, he's there, that Elizabeth, he was part and parcel of special ops. And the other comrade, Ufako, Abanye died in various skirmishes during the operations. While in Kashito, I was deployed, no, initially I was taken to Soviet Union, Pirivan camp to train Kratpe 122mm gun as part and parcel of the Special Operations Project. That project was actually created after we were mowed down by the security forces 1980, the Matola raid, the infamous Matola raid, where we lost 13 of our comrades. Those comrades were part and parcel of the machinery. So now to up the ante, the movement selected 10 of us from a special ops. I was part and parcel of that to go for a training of Kratpe. It's a 122mm gun, the most powerful artillery piece of a guerrilla band because it's portable, it's effective, you can carry it around, very, very effective. That weapon happened to be the one that actually operated in South Africa during the attack of the Voortrekker Hoogte. I'm not going to lie because that was my machinery was part and parcel of the part. I was not physically there. I was behind. You understand? it's normally said, tell no lies, claim no easy victories. I won't tell lies when it comes to our struggle, like others who are telling lies about their services. As a result, they overranked. Even in my book, I do mention all of these things. In fact, it's very detailed. My book is very detailed because it's very educational, very scientific, informative. It deals with our situation from the Marxist-Leninist perspective. Because bear in mind, when I left the country, I was a standard 4 dropout from Philip Nikiwe. Philip Nikiwe, Sama Plangi. Imagine a standard 4 dropout. My baby girl is doing grade 6. So I was here in terms of the educational. So when I left the country and joined the Umkhonto, I immersed myself in Marxist-Leninist doctrine because I regard it as the most powerful education tool in the society. More than any other one you can think of, comrade, in terms of enabling you to understand the dynamics of the social, cultural, political, and economic conditions of one's existence. So I must confess that I am a left-wing Marxist-Leninist, class and ideologically conscious adherent. And I'm sustained by that adherence by the fact that Marxism-Leninism, as I alluded, is the most powerful tool for analysis. If you have it, you won't go wrong, comrade. I'm telling you, no professor, bourgeois professor, or whoever can actually stand in front of when it comes to understanding the dynamics of the situation, because most of them are captured by the system. Now, among other things I deal with in my book is an analysis of how our society evolved post-1994 to become a slightly deracializing capitalism, whereby our own Black Africans are beginning to be co-opted by the bourgeois elite. And that in itself, that process, it's a very reactionary process because most of them are becoming de-politicized and de-ideologized because they are actually leaving the National Democratic Revolution in limbo. Our Black African people who are wretched, who are poverty-stricken, are being damned because now everyone wants to be bourgeois. Okay, with regard to Angola, then when we came back from Soviet Union, as I said, we deployed certain elements within the special ops to operate. And then I was deployed 1982 in the area of KwaZulu-Natal with my comrade Umawiza Upiwe. Unfortunately, during the skirmish of 1982, on the 9th of October, the comrade got shot, he got killed, and then one of the policemen died also during the skirmish. And then the following day of that month, that is on the 10th of October, I was arrested in an area of Nkandla. And then taken to a Eshowe police station where the late attorney, Ubabunkanunu, was instructing attorney. He actually instructed the former Chief Justice, Upayas Langa, to be my advocate. But unfortunately, during that time, he could not have been a senior counsel because no Black African, according to our constitution, the apartheid constitution then, was supposed to be an SC. So my SC was Mr. Wilson, who ended up an adjudicator of the TRC at some point with the likes of the late legend, Babu Toto. You see. So I was arrested and then I was sentenced on the 19th May 1983 in the Peter Maritzburg Supreme Court. During that time, Tembile Square, my cousin was there, who ended up a judge in the Constitutional Court. Shemi, she was there at the time before she was killed by Askari, because at that time, Griffiths Mklenge, who was her husband, was already killed by the Askari. But they were busy during that time, 82, 83, 84, and so on and so forth. Now she was there. Now I was taken to Robben Island to serve my 17 years of my sentence, comrade. And then, because I was supposed to be released year 2000, I was released 1991 because of the negotiated settlement between the NP, the Nationalist Party, and the movement. So my sentence was cut into half. So I was one of the last comrades to close that Robben Island to become a heritage site. So, comrade, when I was released, went to Port Elizabeth there because I'm from a very traditionalist orientated family that believes all our rituals. And I had to at that time because so if you don't have this, it's a problem. Though I don't have a problem with those who don't go there. I mean, it's their what's called, it's their. So that's how it went with regard to my journey briefly. But everything is in that book that took me almost 2 years, right, of an emotional and intellectual journey, writing it, formulating it. I remember there was a time when writing that book where I had to sometimes close my office just to allow myself to shed some tears, to cry, because I must say I am suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is exacerbated by the fact that my background and my current socio-economic situation clash terribly. I can't reconcile them. I am suffering, but yet I contributed immensely here. Tomorrow, schools are going to be opened and my kids are going to be deregistered because of a certain person who doesn't want to do his job, because I was relying on this man to pay for the school fees. Now just put yourself in my shoes and analyze the pain I'm going through on a daily basis, having to walk limping, because recently I had some hip replacement operation. I can hardly walk, comorbidities, stress, financial related problems, but yet there are comrades who are driving big cars. I don't have a problem, because it's one thing about the struggle. To be rich and to be fine, there is no problem. People don't have a problem with that. The problem becomes when you begin to dissociate yourself as a former revolutionary. We love Ramaphosa, despite the fact that perhaps he was a capitalist. You understand? But as long as he has got the interest of the people at heart, people are going to follow him, vote for him. All the people want to deliver the services that we're actually struggling for. Everything that the people want to know is in the book, and that I would want to launch it then at some point. The person who's editing is Dr. Stephen Rule, who was once a researcher of Human Science Research Council. What is currently happening is that Department of Military Veterans and Human Science Research Council have a partnership where they want to capture the background of former combatants. In that group so far, were only 6 who wrote. So from time to time, they used to call us for workshops to tell us the dynamics of the process. Only 6 of us out of the thousands of people actually left the country. So mine is part and parcel of that group. Anyone who wants the book is still in the process of being edited. And according to my supervisor, Dr. Stephen Rule, set at advanced stage with the publishers. They're going to change my subtopic, my title, because they're saying it's very long. It's currently provisionally entitled Memoirs and Perspective of a Former Umkhonto Wesizwe Special Operations Combatant and Robben Island Prisoner. That's the provisional title. Whereas the academics, they're saying it's too long, perhaps they're going to. Hence, in my flyer, there's a part there when they actually requested, in fact, they wrote it. It says from disillusionment to, no, from activism to disillusionment. I did not like the disillusionment until I was convinced by saying there's nothing wrong about it, because I don't want to appear as though I'm disillusioned. No, a former revolutionary doesn't get disillusioned, but I do get frustrated because of the socio-economic circumstances. in details about how prison actually formulated or contributed into our political consciousness. But a certain comrade said I must dwell a bit more about the operational part of that background. All right, 1980, if you will still remember, there was an operation, a Sasol bomb blast. A special operation was responsible for that operation. Again, let me admit that I was not part and parcel physical of that operation. Abo Bani, Abo Faku, and some other comrades. Those of MK know them. And then immediately after that operation, apparently Amabulu were hit where it hurts because they actually raided Matola, the so-called Matola raid, where we actually lost 13 of our comrades. Those comrades were directly involved with that operation. So it means they were hit very hard, and then they responded accordingly. And Natke were hit very hard. Hence, immediately thereafter, there was a group of comrades that had to be sent to Soviet Union, Russia for Gradpe training, as I said. Now, during the time, if you remember, South African regime was sanctioned, especially with regard to oil that they needed very, very much. Over that time, they were busy with these excursions of actually bombarding comrades outside the country, including SWAPO, Zebra, and MK. Now, Joe Slovo, in conjunction perhaps with Comrade O.R. Tambo, decided that we must hit them where it hurts. Oil installations that started with Sasol, the biggest of all. And then there were pump stations throughout the Natal area. So our comrades of MK were tasked to bombard those pump stations. They had to pump oil throughout the country. And those operations were informed by the fact that 1980, Iran, that used to be a source of oil of South Africa, was taken over by the Revolutionary Guards. Shah of Iran was overthrown, and then the Revolutionary Guard took over. Hence, South African regime at the time needed oil very, very much, and we exploited that situation by hitting them on oil installations. And then in Mozambique, that's where different machineries were actually based. One among them was under the auspices of our former chief of the SANDF and communications minister, Comrade Gebuza, Gebuza is a nickname, yeah, it's a combat name. He also led one of the operations, and then a certain Comrade Paul, so the different operations. So mine was that of special ops. So I cannot talk on behalf of other operational machineries because I do not belong to all of them. So mine revolves around my own personal experience. I remember 1979, while I was in Kashito, a jungle-like terrain where you could hardly see a human being. You know, it was such a jungle that even women, according to me, were not actually supposed to be there. But of course, there were no women. It was not feminine friendly. To the extent that one of my friends and comrades, Vincent Mangu, he's Nomad Guerre, that is combat name. At the age of 17 years, my age, committed suicide by blowing his head off because he could not take it. It was bad indeed, comrades. What I basically liked about the camps of the MK throughout Africa was that you would always find stacks and stacks and stacks of books in 1 or 2 tents. So you always had libraries. Now I took it upon myself as a young, politically and intellectually naive 15, 16, 17-year-old boy to immerse myself with books, because In books, that's where you can actually find answers in about the horrible condition of your existence. So as a bookworm, that helped me a great deal in terms of enabling me to understand the wretchedness and the trials and tribulations of the conditions of the struggle. The struggle was not a pap and phrase that time. It was very, very heavy. It was hard. Certain individuals committed suicide because they could not take it. But because ANC is a politicized movement, and it always used to say to us when he addressed us, comrades, you need to be an armed political activist. You don't need militarists in the ANC. We need political activists who will actually have their freedom charters on the right-hand side, constituting 60%, and AK on the left-hand side, 40%. So our struggle was informed by a political ideology that enabled its cadres to understand the conditions of the struggle. So I was one of those who was very, very eager to understand those conditions, because the disadvantage I had then was that I was a mere standard 4 dropout. Just imagine. I hardly know a high school in Port Elizabeth. They talk about Newell, Cowan, and so on and so forth. I did not then know the door of a high school. I deserted school at the age of 14, 15, standard 4, imagine. Now, because I believe that the struggle by its very nature is an educational process. Revolutionary struggle is an educational process wherein progressive ideas are imparted. But of course, as it's normally said, you can take the horse to the river, but you cannot force the horse to drink that water. So I've always believed in political education, educating the cadre, so that the cadre can be able to be of use when it comes to the masses. You must be a teacher of them as an educator, so that the masses understand the dynamics of the National Democratic Revolution, comrades. And then coming to Robben Island Prison, for me, was the most powerful revolutionary college. The ANC converted that prison into a college. Yeah, in the true sense of the word, from time to time, she's a self-appointed manager. Now, from time to time, she tells me what to say. So in Robben Island, we succeeded in converting it into becoming a political school. From January to December, we had a syllabus where comrades were taught about our national and international politics. And another aspect that I'm reminded to actually talk about is that during my time, there was no quadro that they actually make noise about when they want to destroy the movement. When they want to distort the history of the movement, as though the ANC was quadro. ANC was not quadro. When I was there in 1978, there was no quadro. 79, there was no quadro. We're all dedicated cadres of the movement, adhering to the discipline of the revolutionary discipline of the movement. And in any struggle, in any national liberation struggle, it was not a part and phrase. It was very hard. Hence, you were there voluntarily. So those who vilified the movement by overemphasizing the negative aspects at the expense of the positive aspects do not belong into the national democratic forces, because of course, struggle is not an easy thing. As you may know, most of our leaders, you may find that they've got dysfunctional families because they dedicated their lives into the struggle. The struggle is a very selfish process. If you are there, you are there, then you have got to dedicate your life to ensure that the struggle continues until it's a victory. Now, currently, we are in the cul-de-sac. Most of the people who are from Robben Island, as you may know, are seasoned political activists. Not even a single one of them can claim that before they went to Robben Island, they were politically matured and conscious as when they were released. Robben Island deliberately inculcated in them revolutionary consciousness so that they contribute into ensuring that our national democratic revolution is carried out to its fruition or to its conclusion. I am so disheartened when I look at how the comrades are being co-opted by capital to the extent that to them the struggle is over. The struggle is not over, comrades, still continuing. In actual fact, it's such a contradiction that while we're developing in South Africa, others are becoming more comfortable, but the poor are getting poorer and poorer and poorer, which is a contradiction in terms. So I would like to call upon all those comrades with a sincere revolutionary consciousness to rededicate themselves to ensure that the national democratic revolution is carried forward, regardless of the fact that I'm not comfortable when it comes to the socio-economic situation, but I'm still passionate about the struggle that we must carry it out to its fruition. It's a pity that I'm talking from the cuff. I'm not directed in terms of open-ended question, actually. So I'm trying to juggle things out. And then as a former regional commissar of the Eastern Cape, I like to talk a lot about politics because I remember 1991 when I was from Robben Island. Our late gallant fighter of MK, Comrade Chris Sani, once visited us to create the MK structure. In actual fact, it's one comrade within the ends of the ANC who came up with an initiative of creating MK structures throughout the country. And then he did visit us in Port Elizabeth 1991 and appointed me as a regional commissar. The former, the late Comrade Amaqhawe, Brigadier General, was my commander. There was Ukagumzi, who's actually based there. He's retired. He was my chief of staff. So Chris wanted to consolidate MK, and he was the only, that must be emphasized, that he was the only one in the leadership that came up with the initiative to create MK structures. The way he was such a visionary, because it was 1991. And when he created those structures, MK structures, they ended up constituting a very firm foundation for the integration of SANDF. As a result, MK did not have to go around looking for comrades because we had the coherent structure that Chris created in 1991. Unfortunately, he was actually assassinated in 1993 around April. And if you can look at the whole situation, he's only one comrade was once as he was assassinated in the movement because he was enemy number one. According to them, indeed, he was a true revolutionary, a true cadre of the movement who had the interests of the people at heart. That years we have lost him, I'm still, even now, having a problem in reconciling the fact that he was the only one in the movement who was ever assassinated in that manner. So I thank you, comrades.
Thank you, Butkaya. Thank you very much for your very informative and well-structured lecture. You could see, viewers, that he is a well-organized person. His timing is being organized and all those kind of things. Viewers, you've heard for yourselves, this freedom did not come easy. It was hard for a mere young boy, my apology, Butkaya, left the country at the age of 15 years. This young boy was able to make a petrol bomb around the age of 13 years. This young boy experienced indignation of his mother and father in front of him that led to his revolutionarized and fighting spirit to come out. He went to Angola very young. He took huge responsibility of being trained as a commander. at a very young age and successfully completed whatever was required. He mentions higher primary dropout, as he says that he has never seen the high school doors. But that did not let him abandon the drive to acquire knowledge. He has taught himself, he has put everything in his energy to study and know more. As you could hear when he speaks, it does not sound like a higher primary dropout because of his efforts. He goes on to further state, as much as we may say that people that have been to exile or Robben Island, they are enjoying this freedom. He's one of those, and many of those who are not enjoying it, as the controls of the powers that be have led him not to get what is entitled to, not by favor, not by nepotism, but through his efforts, as he has trained and gone through all the other elements. He mentioned full names that he has been with and who are now in better places. And he goes on to appeal to say, whoever knows the HR person, please assist him. In all that, it shows that people have suffered for this freedom and not all are enjoying the fruits of it. He speaks about the love for the poor of the poorest and stating that the struggle was never meant for people to be beneficial, but everybody to improve the conditions. That is the story of Butkaya Skweyiya. We wish to thank him as Amaqhawe Ethu for his contribution. And I think you could see that he has a lot that he wants to share, but unfortunately, because of time, it is against us. We wish to thank him for this opportunity and wish that as he has shared this with the viewers and the people and the listeners of Nkqubela, something may come up. My name is Yongamela Manene. On behalf of Amaqhawe Ethu, I wish to thank you for your watching and your listening to this program. Happy New Year to all the viewers and supporters of Amaqhawe Ethu program. May 2022 be a better year for all. Thank you very much.